Welcome to Fun Facts Daily, your source for just the good stuff. Monday through Friday, we're bringing fun facts and news you can use, all carefully curated to uplift and inform. So give yourself a break, relax, and learn something awesome in just a few minutes every day. Hi everyone, I'm Kyle Wood, and today we're going to be learning all about Siddhartha Gautama, more commonly known as the Buddha. But before we get into the facts, let's warm up our brains with a little challenge to see if you can tell fact from fiction. Consider this. When people picture the Buddha, they very commonly imagine a happy, bald statue with a large, round belly who's laughing and jolly. The image is famous all over the world, and it's often seen in restaurants and homes as a symbol of good luck and abundance. But is that rotund, laughing figure actually the historical founder of Buddhism? Or is this a case of mistaken identity? What do you think? Is that big-bellied, laughing man a realistic picture of Siddhartha Gautama? We'll find out at the end of the episode. Now for your word of the day. Today's word is nirvana. That's Nirvana. People often use the word nirvana as synonymous with paradise or a perfect state of happiness, like relaxing on a quiet beach. But in the context of the Buddha's life and teachings, it has a more specific and more active meaning. It refers to the ultimate goal of the Buddhist path, the state of liberation where one is free from suffering, desire, and the cycle of rebirth. It's not necessarily a physical place you go to, like a city or a park, rather a state of mind and being that's achieved through deep wisdom and practice. The word comes from ancient Sanskrit, and it literally means blowing out or quenching. Think of it like blowing out the flame of a candle. In this metaphor, the flame represents negative things like greed, anger, and ignorance. When the Buddha achieved enlightenment, he was said to have blown out these fires within his mind to find perfect peace. So, while people often use the word nirvana to describe sensory experiences they're enjoying, like a delicious meal or a great vacation, the historical root is really more about extinguishing the things that cause stress and unhappiness. Time for your daily high five, our top 5 fun facts about the Buddha. Number 1. Before he was a spiritual teacher, the Buddha was a wealthy prince who was locked inside a palace. The Buddha was born as Siddhartha Gautama in what is now Nepal. His father was a powerful king who wanted to protect his son from the hardships of the world. The king surrounded Siddhartha with luxury, beautiful gardens, and entertainment, strictly forbidding him from ever seeing old age, sickness, or death. The king hoped that by hiding the ugly truths of life, Siddhartha would grow up to be happy and become a mighty ruler. Instead, he became a holy man who left the throne behind. Curiosity eventually got the better of the young prince, and he convinced his charioteer to take him outside the palace walls. On these trips, he encountered what are known as the 4 sights: an old man, a sick man, a dead body, and a peaceful holy man. These sights shattered his sheltered worldview and made him realize that luxury could not save anyone from the realities of life, sparking his journey to find deeper meaning. Number 2. At one point in his search for truth, the Buddha tried surviving on as little as a single grain of rice a day. After leaving his royal life behind, Siddhartha spent several years practicing extreme asceticism, which is a lifestyle of severe self-discipline and avoiding all forms of indulgence. He joined a group of forest dwellers who believed that punishing the body was the only way to free the mind, so he held his breath for long periods and ate almost nothing. Legend has it he became so thin that if he touched his stomach, he could feel his backbone, and he eventually collapsed from weakness. This was a pivotal moment in his history because it taught him that physically harming himself did not lead to spiritual wisdom. He realized that a starving body leads to a cloudy, weak mind, which actually makes it harder to think clearly and meditate. So, this collapsing from weakness, which could have been perceived as a failure in the moment, was actually a great success. It led him to accept a bowl of rice milk from a village girl, regaining his strength and setting the stage for his true enlightenment. Number 3. The Buddha's great philosophy, called the Middle Way, was inspired by the tuning of a musical instrument. The middle way has the core idea that we should avoid the extreme of indulging in every luxury, but also avoid the extreme of starving or hurting ourselves. It's said that Siddhartha understood this concept after hearing a musician on a passing boat explain how to tune a sitar or similar stringed instrument. If the string is wound too tight, it'll snap under the tension. If the string's too loose, it won't make any sound at all. The string has to be tuned right in the middle to produce music, and the Buddha realized human life works the exact same way. This balanced approach changed religious history because it made spirituality accessible to everyone, not just people living in caves or forests. It suggests that being healthy, well-rested, and moderate in your habits is actually the best foundation for being a kind and wise person. Number 4. Despite being one of the most influential teachers in history, the Buddha never actually wrote down a single word. Unlike many modern authors and philosophers who leave behind books and journals, the Buddha lived in a time when teachings were passed down through an oral tradition. For 45 years, he traveled around India teaching his philosophy through speeches, debates, and conversations with people from all walks of life. His followers, known as the Sangha, would memorize his sermons by chanting them together in groups to ensure they remembered them correctly. Although the Buddha died around 483 BCE, his teachings were passed down orally for centuries. They were finally written down on palm leaves around the 1st century BCE in a collection called the Pali Canon. Because of this oral history, many Buddhist sutras or scriptures begin with the phrase, "Thus I have heard," which acknowledges that the information was listened to and remembered by a disciple. And our 5th and final fun fact for today, the specific type of tree the Buddha sat under is still revered today, and it's known as the Bodhi Tree. Historical accounts state that Siddhartha achieved enlightenment after meditating all night under a large fig tree, specifically a sacred fig or Ficus religiosa. Today, it's known as the Bodhi Tree. The word Bodhi means awakening or enlightenment, so the tree is literally called the Tree of Awakening. It wasn't just a random spot for shade. The tree became a symbol of patience and determination required to reach a goal. Incredibly, a direct descendant of that original tree is still growing today in a place called Bodh Gaya in India. Cuttings from the original tree were taken to Sri Lanka thousands of years ago, and saplings from the Sri Lankan tree were eventually brought back to India to replant at the sacred site. This makes it one of the oldest historically documented trees in the world and gives modern visitors a beautiful physical connection to the moment Siddhartha became the Buddha. Now for some news you can use. Since we're talking about the Buddha and philosophy, I feel like I want to give you a few tips today. The first is mindful breathing. When you're feeling stressed, angry, or overwhelmed, try to stop what you're doing for just a minute. Close your eyes, if it's safe to do so, and focus entirely on the sensation of air moving in and out of your nose. This works because our brains are often jumping between worrying about the future or regretting the past. By focusing on the physical sensation of breathing, you force your brain to return to the present moment. It's sort of like a reset button for your nervous system, lowering your heart rate and helping you respond to problems with a clear, calm head rather than reacting out of frustration. And on the topic of frustration, one of the central teachings of Buddhism is that a lot of pain, suffering, and frustration comes from trying to create permanence in an impermanent world. There's a natural inclination to want your vacation to last forever or stay young forever. We want our comfortable routines to never change. But impermanence is a part of life. As the old saying goes, the only constant is change. When we fight against the natural flow of change, we create a lot of stress. So the secret to being calm isn't about controlling the world around you. It's about stopping the resistance to change. And here are some ways people use that philosophy. One is the river visualization. When you're dealing with a stressful situation or a negative emotion, try to picture your life as a flowing river. Often when we feel stress, we're trying to be a rock in that river. We stand still and try to block the water, which only creates turbulence and pressure against us. Instead, practice floating. Acknowledge that the situation is happening, but remind yourself that it's moving and changing. By visualizing yourself floating with the current rather than fighting against it, you accept the reality of the moment. This saves the energy you would have wasted on being frustrated that things aren't going your way. And my final tip is about letting go of anger. The Buddha famously used a metaphor comparing anger and resentment with holding on to a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. He would point out that when you hold on to something hot with the intention of aiming it at someone else, you're actually the one who gets burned. If you're stressing over a grudge or a mistake from the past, you're holding on to that hot coal. So with that metaphor in mind, when you feel yourself getting angry and resentful towards another person, try to physically relax your hands. When you feel mentally tight and stressed, you'll often notice your fists or jaw are clenched. Consciously open your hands. Take a deep breath. Remind yourself that the past is gone and the future hasn't happened yet. Now for the moment you've been waiting for. At the beginning of the episode, I asked, is that laughing, chubby statue we commonly refer to as a Buddha actually the historical Buddha? Well, that's a fallacy. It's a very common misconception. The historical Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama, was likely very thin and fit. As I said earlier, he spent years doing extreme fasts and walked hundreds of miles across India. The statue, commonly referred to as the Laughing Buddha, is actually a figure from Chinese folklore named Budai, a monk who lived over 1,000 years after the original Buddha. Budai was known for his jolly nature, his big belly, and a cloth sack he carried full of gifts for children. Over the centuries, the images of the two figures have been confused by many people in the West, but they were definitely two totally different people. Now, I hope you enjoyed learning a bit about the Buddha with me today, and be sure to tune in every weekday for even more fun facts. Fun Facts Daily is an Airwave Media podcast. It was written, recorded, mixed, and edited by me, Kyle Wood. Thanks for sharing a part of your day with me. Be sure to follow Fun Facts Daily on your favorite podcast app so you can keep the good stuff coming your way every day. And if you like the show, please do me a favor and leave a kind rating, review, or just tell your friends about it.